One of my favorite things in any Bethesda game is trying to get my hands on all of the unique items. And across the Elder Scrolls series, we've seen many different weapons of long-lost heroes and ancient legends. Skyrim brought back several notable pieces from previous games, including a few more across the Dawnguard and Dragonborn DLCs, and several more through its Creation Club offerings since then. But there's still many unique items from Elder Scrolls games long past that we still can't get our hands on in Skyrim. Today, we're taking a look at a mod that gives us a few of these missing weapons. In Lost Relics of Tamriel by Noctis 3D Arts, adding 11 weapons of Tamriel's past, from Morrowind, Redguard, Battlespire, and my personal favorite, The Elder Scrolls Online. For this video, I'll be showing you each and every weapon added by the mod, where you can find it, and the unique enchantments that many of them possess. You won't need any other mod in order to play, and it should be compatible with just about everything else, except for mods that might completely replace an associated interior location's design. Our first weapon in this mod is a unique gold and ebony shortsword from Morrowind, named Shimsil. During the Third Era, it was wielded by a necromancer taking up residence in the Molegmar region of Vardenfell. The Tribunal Temple would send the Nerevarine to slay this necromancer, with the sword presumably being taken by the hero as a trophy. Now, in the Fourth Era, we can find Shimsil in Hobbs Fall Cave. In the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, Shimsil came with enchantments for Fortify Sneak and Chameleon on Self. The mod's version instead comes with a unique enchantment called Bleed Shock, causing shock and bleed damage, while also soul trapping your foes. And one thing to note before we get further in this video is that a lot of enchantments and effects from Morrowind and even from Oblivion aren't really present in Skyrim. So you will see some differing enchantments on some of these items. I'm perfectly fine with seeing some different enchantments for the Skyrim counterparts, which might actually work better for the player gameplay-wise. Our second item is the Ansei Ward, an ancient sword once belonging to a set of 3, said to be of great importance to the people of the Alikir Desert. This item was first seen in the Elder Scrolls Online, where the 3 swords were used to stop necromancers from raising the consecrated dead, but only for as long as the ward was in good hands. In the hands of necromancers, these protective powers would cease, and could even be corrupted into powerful necromantic tools in order to turn oneself into a lich. During the Second Era, the vestige helped to return the 3 Ansei wards to the Impervious Vault in Alikir, after stopping an insidious necromancer plot. Almost 1,000 years later, in the Fourth Era, one of these legendary swords can be found in Swindler's Den, in the Final Chamber. The sword fittingly comes with a Bane of Undead enchantment, dealing stun damage to undead enemies. Next up is the Soul Sword, from the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard. Set in the closing days of the Second Era during the Imperial occupation of Hammerfell as part of Tiber Septim's War of Conquest, Prince Aetor of the Crowns was assassinated by an Imperial admiral. A failed resurrection ritual caused the prince's soul to inhabit his sword rather than his body. The Soul Sword would be wielded by Cyrus the Restless in his rebellion against the occupying Imperials, and was later passed on to the Queen Regent of Hammerfell. And while the Septim Empire has come and gone, the sword remains whole, and can be found in the wreck of the Brinehammer. Whatever enchantment once possessed the sword seems to have faded. Perhaps it means Prince Aetor's soul has finally found peace. Our fourth item on the list is the Dwarven Hammer of Gharen, a legendary item said to be paired with the Anvil of Mythos, the only anvil in existence strong enough to bear the weight of the hammer's mighty blows. During the events of the Elder Scrolls Arena, the hammer was retrieved by the Eternal Champion in their quest to defeat Jagger Tharn. The hammer itself was found in Blackgate, a dungeon on mainland Morrowind, at the behest of King Kasich of Ebonheart. The king would then use the hammer and its paired anvil to craft weapons and armor for the realm, and legend has it that it had never left the palace since. But clearly, that seems to be a lie. Now, in the 4th era, we can find it in the Dwarven storehouse near the ruins of Mazulft, next to where you would find the Piece of Ethereum. The hammer comes with a flame enchantment, and will increase the smithing ability of its wielder by 5 points. Coming in at the 5th item of this pack, we have Moonreiver, a Daedric artifact from the Elder Scrolls Battlespire, said to be created by Mehrunes Dagon himself, born of his own essence, and as such is one of the only things capable of harming the Daedric Prince of destruction and change. During the invasion of the Battlespire, the Academy for Imperial Battle Mages, a dark seducer who served as bodyguard and lover to Dagon, was entrusted with the sword. The apprentice would go on to take the sword from the Dremora and use it to banish the Daedric Prince. The Battlespire was partially destroyed during the invasion, and even after being reclaimed by the Empire, it was determined that it wasn't worth repairing and reopening. And thus, the spire was sealed indefinitely. Given the danger that the Sword of Moonreiver possessed to Mehrunes Dagon, it only makes sense that he would try to reclaim it for himself. Now, in the 4th era, it can be found inside his shrine, just to the left of the main treasure chest. It sports the Moonburn enchantment, dealing fire damage, and bonus damage to Daedra in particular. Number 6 in this mod is the Shade Sickle. Not to be confused with your average farming sickle though. This item was forged as an offering to the Daedric Prince Nocturnal. Said to sever the shadows from its victims, it was used in the 2nd era by a group of necromancers in the Blackwood region of Cyrodiil. The vestige would retrieve the artifact at the behest of Nocturnal herself, in order to prevent its misuse at the hands of necromancers. Now, in the 4th era, it fell into the ownership of one of Nocturnal's former faithful. The sickle can be found in Mercer Frey's home in Riften, next to the bust of the Grey Fox. Seeing as how Mercer Frey was also in possession of the Skeleton Key, it would make sense that he wouldn't be opposed to collecting more of Nocturnal's gifts, whether she wanted him to or not. This comes with Night's Chill, an enchantment dealing frost and poison damage. Now, this next one is a personal favorite, as it comes from one of my favorite side quests in Oblivion, the Brush of Truepaint, from the side quest A Brush with Death. This is an artifact of the divine Dibella, with the bristles of the brush said to be crafted from her very own hair. The brush itself allows for its user to create a beautiful painted world, bringing their very own creations to life. The champion of Cyrodiil would enter a painting created by the brush, and retrieve it from the body of its would-be thief. Given its origin, it can be found in the Temple of Dibella's inner sanctum, all the way in the back by the golden statuette. The brush is usable as a weapon, but it has very low damage, and it doesn't have a unique enchantment. Taking us to Windhelm is the Stormkiss Axe. Once belonging to Olmgerd the Outlaw, the illegitimate son of Skyrim's High King Harald, and was buried with the prince in what would become present-day Morrowind. 2 eras later, the Nerevarine would uncover the axe in Olmgerd's undisturbed tomb. Nowadays, it can be found in the Palace of Kings, just above the hearth in Ulfric Stormcloak's bedchambers, a fitting home for an artifact of the ancient Skyrim kings. That is, until we take it as our own, of course. Stormkiss also makes an appearance in the Elder Scrolls Blades, which takes place only a few decades before the events of Skyrim. It would seem that the blade had relinquished the weapon at some point, in order for it to make its way back to its ancestral homeland. The axe itself comes with frost and shock damage enchantments. As we've seen before, both in Skyrim and across the other games, Daedric princes often have more than one artifact, even if they're best known for one in particular. And while we can claim Sanguine's Rose by taking part in a drinking contest with the Prince of Debauchery, what if we could claim another of his artifacts over the course of our adventures for him? The Sanguine Shortbow of Sureflight, last seen in the 3rd era on Vardenfell, where House Telvanni had it stashed away in the Mushroom Tower of Telerune. The true origin of the weapon is up for debate, as it is not listed as one of the 27 threads of the Web Spinner, a collection of artifacts connected to Mephala and Sanguine. However, that didn't stop Sanguine from taking ownership of it once again. The shortbow can be found in the Misty Grove, a pocket realm of Oblivion, which the Dragonborn visits in trying to complete Sam Guevin's challenges, only to learn that their drinking buddy was a Daedric prince all along. The bow can be found on the smaller table alongside a keg of mead, but it must be grabbed before leaving the realm, as you won't be able to return here. The bow appropriately comes with the new enchantment Hangover, which drains the target's health and has them paralyzed temporarily in a drunken stupor. Our final 2 artifacts today have us leave Skyrim and instead takes us on a journey to the Isle of Solstheim. The Noreverian came to the island in the late 3rd era, partially to help the East Empire companies set up shop in the newly founded mining settlement of Raven Rock. It was during this period that Hircine, the Daedric Prince of the Hunt, sought to enact the Blood Moon Prophecy, abducting the Noreverian and others to take part in his great hunt. At the end of this trial, the prophesized hero would come face to face with an aspect of Hircine, slaying him in order to end the hunt, and claiming the Spear of the Hunter as their reward. The spear itself is a lesser-known Daedric artifact, but said to be a favorite of the prince. It can be found at the Shrine to Hircine at the Snow-clad Ruins, just atop the altar. Alternatively, if you have the Daedric Shrine Replacer from Mandragorasprouts, the spear will be stabbed through the statue's leg. Or in my case, one of the werebears will loot it and use it against you. When wielded, the spear deals bonus damage to animals, and drains stamina from its victims. And last but not least, we have the Crosier of St. Llothis, a holy relic of the now defunct Tribunal Temple, and uncovered by the Noreverian in their service to the temple during the 3rd era. The relic had been lost deep within Dagoth-Ur's fortress, past the protection of the Ghost Gate, making the pilgrimage to retrieve it all the more deadly. Deep within Red Mountain, the Noreverian found the Crosier, alongside the body of a buoyant armiger who failed to brave the mountain's perils, and had succumbed to the power of the artifact. With its enchantment at full strength, the Crosier of St. Llothis would drain the user's health, while blinding them and damaging their armor as well, making for a poor weapon in combat. But since the eruption of Red Mountain, these curses seem to have faded, making it safe to wield now in the 4th era. It can be found in the center of Raven Rock's temple, in the central ash pit. All of the weapons in the mod are unleveled, and compared to base game gear, are meant to represent damage numbers for mid to late game usage. The author has expressed that there are also other items that they would have liked to create, but that these additional items would have made more sense to include with their own quests, something that the author isn't as comfortable making at this time. Just about all the weapons can be improved at a grindstone, but one thing to note is that several of them are marked as stolen. I think it does make sense lore-wise, but gameplay-wise, it means running the risk of losing them if you're arrested by a guard. I would also love it if we could see some compatibility with animation mods, so that you could use a proper polearm animation with the Spear of the Hunt, which just uses a greatsword animation set by default. This was a fun mod for me, for a couple different reasons. I love more unique items and artifacts to collect, and this actually served as a great way for me to learn about some items and lore from previous games that I was unfamiliar with. Some of these items aren't as well known, and for me personally, I've never beaten the Elder Scrolls Arena, and I've never played Battlespire, Redguard, or Daggerfall proper. Looking up these weapons and their original means of obtaining them was a lot of fun for me. The models and textures are really well done. I feel that the placement for the weapons worked out well, and it allows for you to find them naturally over the course of a full playthrough. In the case of the Sanguine shortbow, this is the only item that's missable, as you can only grab it when completing Sanguine's quest, and it has to be taken before speaking with the prince in his pocket realm. So, if you're installing this on an existing save with all quests completed, you will miss out on this one. One thing that I would love to see is a patch for Legacy of the Dragonborn, since these are items that would fit perfectly on those displays. I know the Dragonborn gallery is probably getting a little packed with all these different compatibility mods, but hey, I really loved collecting things for the museum. But that's gonna be all for today. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.